Listen, listen, we got breaking news in the NBA. I want to discuss something involving Brandon Ingram. Obviously, it was a lot of things percolating with him. He just recently signed with Rich Paul and Clutch Sports. We're going to break this whole situation down. We all know Rich Paul. Whenever we hear his name, we know it's shockwaves, and all of the things that come with him. We know possibly a big trade is imminent. That seems to be on everybody's radar right about now. Obviously, what's going on in New Orleans is, this is just disgusting. This is just a disgrace to the city of New Orleans. They have officially entered the Cooper Flag sweepstakes. Brandon Ingram, the writing is on the wall. His name was in trade rumors, for years now. This season, this man is averaging 22 points per game. We all know what he does from the field. He's shooting 46% from the field, 36% from three, 5 rebounds, 5 assists. We all know what to expect from Ingram. Now, it's all about where could he end up because the Pelicans, they have the worst record right now in the Western Conference. They're 15th. They're 4-18. This is just horrible. Nobody expected the New Orleans Pelicans to be in this state. They're right there. You got a lot of teams like the Wizards, the 76ers. This is just horrible, what is taking place. The way that these teams have thoroughly entered the Cooper Flag sweepstakes. But let's get into Rich Paul because, like I said, this is breaking news. I repeat, Rich Paul has signed, Brandon Ingram. This is crazy. Ingram recently made the decision to sign with Clutch Sports, and now his future has become in greater focus. The Pelicans and Ingram were unable to reach a contract extension or trade elsewhere during the offseason. Brandon wants to stay here. At the same time, there is a financial reality that we all deal with. Pelicans Executive Vice President David Griffin said this in late June. Obviously, whenever you hear David Griffin, you got to take everything with a grain of salt. This guy wanted to go toe to toe with LeBron James. Clearly, he'll do whatever, for his benefit, for him to stick around. And why not? The Pelicans, y'all 15th. Why just let go of Zion too? It should just be a fire sale in New Orleans. They traded, for DeJounte Murray. It looked like they was trying to be competitive. They were not supposed to be the worst team in the Western Conference, hovering around the worst record in the NBA. That was not supposed to be the deal. DeJounte got hurt. Zion continues to deal with it, whatever he's dealing with. Ingram, he's dealing with injuries. And at some point, Rich Paul is going to see the writing on the wall. I'm not sure how comfortable he is even with Griffin. I don't know their relationship. Obviously, LeBron and Griffin, I don't believe are best friends. Despite winning the championship, you never see these two, gelling or bonding, after a Pelicans game. So clearly, it seems to be no love lost, there. And we all know Rich Paul, despite, his many attempts to try to separate himself from LeBron James, we all know Rich Paul Clutch Sports is an extension of LeBron James. So now we start to look through the radar of the possible teams that he could be moved to. Right now, the Los Angeles Lakers, where Brandon Ingram was drafted, they need somebody. Rich Paul picking up all these clients. At some point, he's going to have to help out his main client. LeBron needs another weapon out there in Los Angeles. Now, obviously, you're hearing possibly Trae Young in Atlanta, maybe. But now you could throw Ingram in the mix. Clearly, Ingram and LeBron, they didn't really kick it off too well. I think they were cool up until that brawl that had happened with Chris Paul and Rondo and all of that. And it seemed like after that, LeBron and Ingram never really could just see eye to eye anymore. I do see a situation where we could see Ingram back in Los Angeles, probably for the cheap. I mean, they may not even have to give up too much. I don't know, but Griffin is a smooth operator. Pause. So you never know what he could possibly maneuver here dealing with Rich Paul. We all know Rich Paul. Even with the Anthony Davis situation, that was crazy. Like even how he got there, they didn't want to move. Anthony Davis. They tried to get Dell Demps, which was crazy because Dell Demps actually had a better deal on the table. Nobody points that out, that Dell Demps had the better deal. That I don't know. That's just wild. That's a whole nother story in itself. But nonetheless, man, Ingram is headed out of town, and can you blame him? I don't even know who's on the floor for New Orleans right now. They playing guys I don't know. Like I said, they've thoroughly entered, this draft. They're going to get a good pick, period. And at this point, it doesn't even make sense to be competitive. At some point, these teams are going to pull the plug. Who knows what Philly's going to do? Could you imagine a Cooper Flag entering a team like that? And it'd be kind of ironic for the Sixers to come in and swoop in on this draft because, I'm bringing up the Sixers because we got to watch these teams, New Orleans and people like that, because these teams were supposed to be competitive, and I guarantee you, ladies and gentlemen, one of these top players is going to end up in one of these cities he had no business being ended up in. So what does New Orleans do? Because I think they're in a tough spot right now. Obviously, if you were to bring in an Ace Bailey or something like that, or a Cooper Flag, you're moving on from an Ingram. Period. You don't need a guy taking shots. Ingram, he's a ball stopper. Pause. We got to just call it how we see it. When Ingram gets the basketball, there's a lot of dribbling. There's a lot of, he got to get to, his spots. So, you're going to have to he belongs on a contender to me, in my opinion. I think if you could, obviously the Knicks can't get in there, but I would have loved to see a guy like him instead of a Bridges, because Ingram is a lot more dynamic, more that go-to, give me the ball, I got you. Some of these guys need to be force-fed for New York. A guy like him maybe going to Miami. When you look at Rich Paul, he's going to put Ingram in the best situation possible. Just look at the list of all of his clients. He's got a lot of people paid in this league. He is it's wild. So just do your homework on how Rich Paul played this game. And, you should know fireworks is ahead. Brandon Ingram, a trade is imminent. I wouldn't be surprised if he's moved before the deadline. You heard it here first at Flight Sports TV. Make sure you hit the like button and most definitely hit the subscribe button. Peace and love.